Good morning, class. I hope you're doing very well today. My name is Yannick the Arts, and today I'm going to talk about the journey of finding your own art style, and I'm going to give you some tips on how you can actually find your own art style and just develop it in your own way. So this video is going to be probably a bit shorter, but we'll see. So before we start, thank you all for the recent support on the channel, and yeah, let's get right into the video. Now, what actually is your art style? Different people use this word in different contexts, in different situations, but for me, an art style is just your own favorite technique of drawing and your own, let's say, line of drawing. So, for example, your art style can be that you, for example, draw, let's say, very sharp and like edged lines, or your art style could be, for example, that you draw something very smoothly and maybe just something that is kind of wobbly, you know? So an art style can be a very different thing depending on who you ask. It can be a different definition, a different context used, and it just depends on what person do you ask what is an art style, then you'll get just different answers and different opinions from different people. So yeah, now that we have that out of the way, let's get right in how do you actually find your own art style. So my first tip on finding your own way of drawing is trying out different techniques to draw different things. So for example, when you draw with a pen, and you feel like you aren't really doing any progress on actually finding your own way of drawing, you can experiment with different utensils. You can, for example, start using, let's say, pencils, or maybe paint, or maybe some kind of markers and stuff like that. There's so much different, let's say, utensils and equipment to actually use on paper or maybe digitally even. So there's so much stuff out there that you can try, and there is like so much possibilities that you can endure and just see what fits you the best. Like for example, when I was finding my own art style, I was just trying out different things. Like for example, most of the time I use my pencil, but sometimes I use my, let's say, ink pen, for example. Sometimes I use my normal pen. Sometimes I use my colored pencils. Sometimes I use markers. So stuff like that. You can experiment with different things at different times of different occasions. When you, for example, don't feel like you want to draw something with a pencil, you just pick up a different thing and just go on with it. And let's say, for example, that you also feel like you draw on paper and you aren't also doing that much of progress. You can try different, let's say, worksheets also. There is types of paper that just work differently. For example, they have different like hardness, different surfaces and stuff like that. So you can try out that as well. It can make a huge difference if, for example, draw with markers. A better fit for your technique is to use a paper that has a bit of a rougher surface and a harder structure, so that your markers don't really blend out of the paper. Like it would be kind of stupid to use a paper that's very light and very like transparent on, let's say, some watercolor markers, So there is stuff that just works better with different things. And also talking about techniques, let's say you, for example, draw with a pencil, but you feel like you don't really find that universal, let's say. There are many different types of pencils. You can use mechanical pencils. You can use, for example, pencils that have different shapes, different colors and stuff like that. And also there's like a scale to actually see the softness or roughness of different pens. It goes from H to B, and with H being harder and B being softer. The most I've seen in real life is 8B and 8H, and I have personally used those pencils. Like 8H is like very, very rough. It just creates an extremely transparent line, and if you press too hard, you can't really erase it, And 8B is great for shading large areas quickly because it's extremely soft and very easy to distribute along large surfaces. So you can try using different types of pencils when you, for example, want to shade something, but you feel like your HB pencil isn't doing that much for you. You can pick up a B pencil, and that will make your experience a bit better and a bit easier. So this is the first thing to finding your own art style, actually. Just try experimenting with different techniques, different, let's say, equipment, different workspaces and stuff like that, because that will make your journey a bit easier. You will actually see what you find drawing the most efficiently. You will find what you enjoy the most, what is the easiest for you, what is maybe the hardest for you, and what is to avoid. So this is the first thing. And the second thing I wanted to bring about in this video is try different things to draw, actually. So when you want to find your own art style, you can think that you maybe, for example, just stick to one thing and try different techniques, then you will see what fits you best. And that isn't really true, because when you just draw one thing, you obviously become very good at it. You obviously become like very professional at drawing this one specific thing, but then you, let's say, draw, I don't know, cars for a very long time, and you become very professional artist at drawing cars, and then you want to draw, let's say, a building, and it just doesn't work. So this is one thing to consider when you want to find your own art style, is to try drawing different things. You can experiment with drawing, let's say, objects and, let's say, nature, maybe architecture, maybe, let's say, characters and humans, and maybe, let's say, just everyday objects, or for example, even cars, like I said. Different things require different skills to draw, different, let's say, units of and methods of measurement. They require different techniques sometimes, because you sometimes find things that are easier to draw, let's say, with markers than, for example, say, I don't know, a pencil. And they also require different, let's say, mindsets for people, because when you want to draw something that is extremely realistic and like very detailed, you obviously need to work very hard to actually create that. You need to measure every single thing to make it look very good, and you also need to think of every single detail. But when you, for example, draw abstract art, there isn't that much to consider. Personally, I think I have never really got into abstract art, so correct me if I'm wrong, but you don't really have to consider that much stuff when it comes to that type of drawing. So, trying different things to draw can make your journey also a bit easier, since you can see what you find the most enjoyable to draw and what you find, for example, the easiest. Because, for example, personally, I find architecture or cars to draw that are the easiest for me. But let's say drawing humans and stuff like that, it is hard, because you have to remember all the proportions, the anatomy and stuff like that, and it can be a bit hard to actually remember all of that stuff. So try finding things that you, for example, feel like are the best for you and that you feel like are doing you the biggest favor. This will make your journey of finding your own art style much easier, and you will actually see that you, for example, find drawing stuff that you have never even considered drawing to be the most enjoyable, let's say. Maybe let's say that you have been drawing one specific thing for a very long time, and you feel like you wouldn't really like drawing, I don't know, let's say, objects. And then you, for example, draw some objects, and you think to yourself that, wow, this is actually very enjoyable and very easy, and you decide that maybe this is the easiest and the best thing for you to draw. So this is the second thing that I wanted to talk about, that you can try to draw different things on different canvases, different workspaces and stuff like that. And this can make your journey a lot easier. You will see that you actually develop in a way that you not only see that you find different things to draw that are easier, but you will also see that you actually improve, because when you draw a lot of things, you improve your, let's say, skills, you improve your vision, you improve your, let's say, geometric visualization, you improve your, let's say, 3D imagination and stuff like that. And that is very important if you, for example, want to actually do something in real life that is related to drawing and art. When you, for example, have a person that wants to go and do, let's say, I don't know, architecture and, let's say, like sketches for that stuff, then the most valuable thing that they'll need to learn is like visualization of geometry and stuff like that, and this will make their journey a lot easier. Like me personally, for example, when I grow up and like actually go out in the world, I want to stay in this architectural field because I really enjoy it, and the most valuable thing for me right now is learning this geometry stuff and math and stuff like that. But when it comes to art, the most important thing is just learning your, let's say, 3D imagination and how you can visualize things quickly. And that is a very good skill to have, especially if you want to do something that is related to drawing in the real world. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about in this video is that finding your own art style can be a very long journey. Like, for me personally, I have found myself just experimenting with different things and stuff like that, and this is something that takes a long time to actually develop and actually just end up with. So if you feel like you, for example, have been just creating stuff, drawing and stuff like that, and you don't have your own art style yet, like, do not worry about that. It isn't like the most important thing if you are an artist. Finding your own art style is obviously very good. It obviously can be a very nice thing to actually develop, but if you want to do that and you feel like, for example, you have been just experimenting with different things for, let's say, ages and you still haven't found yourself in this field, do not be that worried about that. This process of finding your own art style can be a very long journey. It can take up a very big portion of your life and your time. But at the end, when you finally just think to yourself that you have found your own way of drawing, this will pay off so much. Like, it is worth finding your own art style and spending so much time just developing different things, just experimenting with different techniques, different equipment and stuff like that. It is worth it, trust me. Like, if you want to find your own art style, be prepared that it may take up a big portion of your time. Like, it isn't guaranteed that, for example, you just spend a big part of your life finding your own art style, because obviously there are going to be people that just, let's say, start their journey at day one, and at day two they have, let's say, decided that what they want to draw. But for most people this journey will be long, and do not worry if you feel like you have been doing something for a very long time and you still haven't found anything. Like, this journey is long and you need to be prepared for that, but at the end it will pay off and it will be worth it. So I think this can conclude our today's video. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and also make sure to leave out ideas for future videos in the comments section. So this is all that what I wanted to talk about in this video, and yeah, Janek is out. Peace.